We begin our journey in a land cradled by history itself. This land is now called Iraq. It sits in the heart of the Middle East, a crossroads of continents and cultures. To the north you will find Turkey. To the east lies the vast country of Iran. To the south, Iraq shares borders with Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. And to its west you find Jordan and Syria. This location has always been important. For thousands of years, people have traveled through this land. They have traded goods, shared ideas, and sometimes they have fought wars. Its position has shaped its destiny, making it a place where many stories meet. Two great rivers flow through this country. They are the Tigris and the Euphrates. They begin their long journey in the mountains of Turkey. They flow southward, bringing life to the dry plains of Iraq. The land between these two rivers is special. The ancient Greeks called it Mesopotamia, which means the land between the rivers. This is where our story truly starts. These rivers provided water for drinking and for crops. They made the soil rich and fertile. This abundance allowed people to stop wandering and build homes, creating the very first settlements and cities. The rivers were more than just a source of water. They were highways for trade and communication. People built boats to travel up and down the waterways. They carried grain, pottery, and textiles from one city to another. This constant movement of people and goods helped societies grow and become more complex. The rivers connected distant communities, allowing them to share knowledge and innovations. It was this connection, this flow of life and ideas, that laid the groundwork for the great civilizations that would soon rise from this fertile crescent of land, changing the course of human history forever. Even today, on this day, July 12, 2025, the Tigris and Euphrates remain the lifeblood of Iraq. They still water the fields where farmers grow dates, wheat, and barley. They still provide water for the bustling cities that line their banks. But they also face new challenges. Dams built in neighboring countries have reduced their flow. Pollution and climate change threaten their health. The story of these rivers is the story of Iraq itself. It is a story of enduring life, of great challenges, and of the constant struggle to preserve a precious gift for future generations. Imagine a time more than 5,000 years ago. Here, in southern Mesopotamia, something incredible happened. People known as the Sumerians began to build the world's first cities. Cities like Uruk, Ur, and Eridu rose from the plains. These were not just large villages. They were complex societies with governments, laws, and social structures. The Sumerians looked at the world around them and sought to understand it. They invented something that would change everything: writing. They used a reed stylus to press wedge-shaped marks into wet clay tablets. We call this cuneiform. It allowed them to record history, write laws, and tell epic stories like the tale of Gilgamesh. The Sumerians were not alone in this land for long. Other powerful civilizations followed. The Akkadians, led by Sargon the Great, created one of the world's first empires, uniting the Sumerian city-states under one ruler. Then came the Babylonians. Their great king, Hammurabi, gave the world one of its earliest and most complete legal codes. He had these laws carved onto a tall stone pillar for all to see. The Code of Hammurabi established the idea that justice should be public and consistent. It was a revolutionary concept that shaped the very idea of law and order for millennia to come. After the Babylonians, the Assyrians rose to power in the north. They were known for their military strength and their magnificent cities, like Nineveh. Their palaces were decorated with incredible stone carvings that showed scenes of war, hunting, and royal life. These civilizations were pioneers in many fields. They studied the stars and developed astronomy and astrology. They created a calendar based on the cycles of the moon. They developed mathematics, including a system based on the number 60, which is why we still have 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. Their legacy is all around us. The achievements of ancient Mesopotamia laid the foundation for so much of what we call civilization. They gave us the wheel, which transformed transportation and pottery making. They developed irrigation to control the river's floods and water their fields, a marvel of engineering. They built towering ziggurats, massive stepped pyramids that reached for the heavens, serving as temples to their gods. The ideas born in this land, of writing, law, science, and urban living, did not stay here. They spread across the ancient world, influencing cultures from Egypt to Greece, and their echo can still be heard in our world today. The story of Iraq is a story of great empires rising and falling, each leaving its mark on the land and its people. Around 539 BC, The mighty Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon. For centuries, Mesopotamia became a vital part of this vast empire. The Persians were skilled administrators. They built roads, established a postal system, and allowed the diverse peoples they ruled to keep their own customs and religions. This period of relative peace and stability allowed for a rich exchange of cultures. Persian art, architecture, and ideas blended with the ancient traditions of Mesopotamia, creating a unique synthesis. Then, a new power came from the west. Alexander the Great, the young king from Macedonia, swept across the Persian Empire in the 4th century BC. He dreamed of a world where Greek and Eastern cultures would merge. After his conquest, Mesopotamia came under the influence of Hellenistic culture. Greek became the language of administration and learning. Cities like Seleucia, built on the banks of the Tigris, became centers of Greek thought and commerce. For a time, it seemed as if the future of this ancient land would be shaped by the ideals of Athens and Alexandria. The Romans, too, would later push into this territory, seeing it as a frontier of their own empire. This era was not just one of clashing armies and shifting borders. It was also a time of profound spiritual change. Ancient Mesopotamia was the birthplace of the prophet Abraham, a central figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Jewish communities had lived in this land since the Babylonian exile in the 6th century BC. Christianity also found fertile ground here. Some of the oldest Christian communities in the world took root in the plains of northern Iraq. They developed their own unique traditions and liturgies, speaking Aramaic, the language of Jesus himself. This land became a mosaic of faiths. The clash and combination of these great powers, Persian, Greek, and Roman, and the growth of new monotheistic faiths created a complex and layered society. The old gods of Mesopotamia slowly faded, but the land's spiritual importance did not. Instead, it transformed. The soil that had nourished the first cities now nourished new beliefs that would spread across the globe. This period set the stage for the next great transformation, one that would redefine the identity of this land and place it at the very center of a new world civilization, this time under the banner of Islam. In the 7th century AD, a new chapter began. Arab armies, inspired by the new faith of Islam, arrived in Mesopotamia. The region quickly became a vital part of the expanding Islamic Caliphate. The real transformation happened in the 8th century when the Abbasid dynasty came to power. They decided to build a new capital. They chose a site on the banks of the Tigris River. They called it Madinat al-Salam, the City of Peace. We know it today as Baghdad. Under the Abbasids, Baghdad became the glorious center of the Islamic Golden Age. It was the largest city in the world, a beacon of learning, science, and culture. For 500 years, Baghdad was the intellectual heart of the world. Scholars from all over the known world, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, gathered here. They translated the great works of the Greeks, Persians, and Indians into Arabic. In the House of Wisdom, a legendary library and academy, they made incredible advances in medicine, mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. Thinkers like Al-Kindi and Al-Farabi explored complex philosophical questions, while mathematicians like Al-Khwarizmi developed algebra. This was an era of immense creativity and discovery, a time when Baghdad shone brighter than any other city on earth. But this golden age could not last forever. The vast Abbasid Empire began to weaken, power fractured, and internal conflicts grew. The final devastating blow came in 1258. A vast Mongol army, led by Hulagu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan, swept down from the steppes of Central Asia. They laid siege to Baghdad. When the city fell, the destruction was unimaginable. The Mongols sacked the city, destroyed its libraries, and threw countless precious books into the Tigris River. It is said the water ran black with ink. The Islamic Golden Age came to a sudden and brutal end. For the next several centuries, Iraq endured a long period of decline and foreign rule. After the Mongols, the land was contested by various Turkic and Persian dynasties. Then, in the 16th century, it was conquered by the powerful Ottoman Empire, based in modern-day Turkey. For 400 years, Iraq was an Ottoman province, ruled from the distant capital of Istanbul. While there were periods of stability, the region never fully recovered the glory and prominence it had known during the Abbasid era. The great irrigation systems fell into disrepair, and the population dwindled. The land of great cities and scholars became a quiet backwater of a vast empire. The world changed dramatically in the early 20th century. The Ottoman Empire, once so powerful, was now weak, often called the sick man of Europe. During World War I, it sided with Germany and Austria-Hungary. This decision had profound consequences for Iraq. The British Empire, fighting against the Ottomans, saw the strategic importance of Mesopotamia, especially its newly discovered oil reserves. British forces invaded the region, and by the end of the war, they were in control. The centuries of Ottoman rule were over, but true independence was not yet in sight for the Iraqi people. After the war, the victorious European powers carved up the old Ottoman territories. They drew new borders on the map, often with little regard for the local populations, their history, or their ethnic and religious differences. The British created the modern state of Iraq by joining together three distinct Ottoman provinces: Mosul in the north, with its large Kurdish population, Baghdad in the center, with a Sunni Arab majority, and Basra in the south, with a Shia Arab majority. In 1921, they installed Faisal I, a member of the Hashemite family from Mecca, as the king of this new country. Iraq was now a kingdom, but it was under British control, a system known as a mandate. The Iraqi people did not simply accept this foreign domination. There was a strong desire for true independence. Throughout the 1920s and beyond, nationalist movements grew, demanding an end to British influence. In 1932, Iraq was granted formal independence and joined the League of Nations. However, Britain still maintained significant political and economic power, especially over the country's vast oil resources. The monarchy struggled to build a unified national identity out of the diverse groups that had been brought together. The years that followed were marked by political instability, military coups, and growing social unrest. This period of monarchy lasted until 1958. In that year, a group of army officers, led by Abd al-Karim Qasim, overthrew the king in a bloody revolution. The monarchy was abolished, and Iraq was declared a republic. This event marked a major turning point. It ended the era of British-backed rule and ushered in a new period of intense political struggle. Different groups, including nationalists, communists, and Ba'athists, competed for control of the country's future. The dream of a stable, prosperous, and truly independent Iraq remained elusive, setting the stage for even more turbulent times ahead. Out of the political turmoil of the 1960s, one political party emerged as the dominant force: the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party. The Ba'athists believed in Arab nationalism and socialism, and they seized power in a coup in 1968. A young and ambitious member of the party, Saddam Hussein, quickly rose through the ranks. By 1979, he had consolidated his power and become the undisputed president of Iraq. His rule would define the country for the next quarter of a century. He used Iraq's immense oil wealth to fund ambitious modernization projects, building schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. For a time, literacy and living standards improved. But this development came at a terrible price. Saddam Hussein ruled with an iron fist. He created a vast security apparatus and a powerful cult of personality. Dissent was not tolerated. Political opponents, real or imagined, were ruthlessly eliminated. He used chemical weapons against rebellious Kurdish communities in the north, most infamously in the town of Halabja in 1988, killing thousands of civilians. His regime was one of fear and paranoia, where neighbors spied on neighbors, and loyalty to the leader was the only path to survival. The initial promise of progress was buried under the weight of brutal repression. Saddam's ambition was not limited to Iraq's borders. In 1980, he launched a devastating war against neighboring Iran. The Iran-Iraq War lasted for 8 long years. It resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of soldiers and civilians on both sides and left both economies in ruins. Just 2 years after that war ended, in 1990, Saddam's forces invaded and annexed the small, oil-rich country of Kuwait. This act of aggression was condemned by the international community and led to the First Gulf War in 1991. A United States-led coalition swiftly drove the Iraqi army out of Kuwait. After the Gulf War, the United Nations imposed harsh economic sanctions on Iraq. These sanctions were intended to pressure Saddam's regime, but they had a catastrophic effect on the Iraqi people. The economy collapsed, infrastructure crumbled, and there were widespread shortages of food and medicine. For more than a decade, Iraq was isolated from the world. Then, Following the September 11th attacks in the United States, the U.S. administration accused Saddam's regime of possessing weapons of mass destruction and having links to terrorism. In March 2003, a U.S.-led coalition invaded Iraq, toppling Saddam Hussein's government. His capture in December of that year marked the end of an era, but it also opened a new, violent, and uncertain chapter in Iraq's history. To understand Iraq, we must understand its people. It is a nation woven from many different threads of ethnicity and faith. The majority of the population are Arabs, who themselves are divided by religion. The Shia Arabs are the largest single group in the country, forming a majority of the population. They live predominantly in the southern and central parts of Iraq. The Sunni Arabs, while a minority in the country as a whole, form a majority in the western and central regions. This division between Shia and Sunni Islam, which dates back to a succession dispute after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, has been a significant factor in Iraqi politics and society. The second largest ethnic group in Iraq are the Kurds. The Kurds are not Arabs. They have their own distinct language, culture, and history. They live mostly in the mountainous region of northern Iraq, an area they call Kurdistan. For generations, the Kurds have sought greater autonomy and have often clashed with the central government in Baghdad. Today, the Kurdistan region enjoys a high degree of self-rule, with its own government, parliament, and security forces. Other, smaller ethnic groups, such as the Turkmen, Assyrians, and Yazidis, add to the country's rich diversity, each with their own unique traditions and languages. This land is holy to many faiths. For Shia Muslims, Iraq is home to some of their most sacred sites. The cities of Najaf and Karbala are major centers of pilgrimage. In Najaf, you will find the magnificent golden-domed shrine of Imam Ali, the cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. In Karbala lies the shrine of his son, Imam Hussein, whose martyrdom is commemorated every year by millions of Shias around the world. The cities of Samarra and Kadhimiya also contain the tombs of other important Shia imams. These holy sites make Iraq a spiritual center for Shias everywhere. But the sacred geography of Iraq is not just Shia. Sunni Muslims also have important mosques and shrines throughout the country, such as the Abu Hanifa Mosque in Baghdad. For Christians, the ancient monasteries of the north, like Marmatai and Rabban Hormizd, are places of deep spiritual significance. And for the Yazidis, a unique religious group with ancient roots, the holy site of Lalish in the north is the most sacred place on earth. This tapestry of peoples and faiths is both Iraq's greatest strength and, at times, a source of its deepest conflicts. Protecting this diversity is one of the greatest challenges for the country's future. After the fall of Saddam Hussein in 2003, Iraq embarked on a difficult journey to build a new political system. The country is now a federal parliamentary republic. This means that power is shared between a central government in Baghdad and the country's different regions and provinces. The government is led by a prime minister, who is the head of government, and a president, who has a more ceremonial role as head of state. The main legislative body is the Council of Representatives, a parliament whose members are elected by the Iraqi people. The system is designed to ensure that the different ethnic and religious groups are all represented in government. The political landscape is complex and often fragmented. There is no single dominant political party. Instead, politics is organized around broad coalitions of parties that often form along ethnic and sectarian lines. Major political forces include Shia Islamist parties, which often have close ties to religious leaders, Sunni Arab parties, which represent the interests of their community, and Kurdish parties, which dominate the political scene in the Kurdistan region. This power-sharing arrangement can be difficult. Forming a government after an election can take many months of negotiation, and political disagreements can sometimes lead to paralysis or instability. The foundation of Iraq's economy is oil. The country sits on some of the largest proven oil reserves in the world. Oil exports provide the vast majority of the government's revenue. This incredible wealth gives Iraq the potential to rebuild and prosper. However, relying so heavily on a single resource also creates challenges. When global oil prices are low, the Iraqi economy suffers. This dependence has also made it difficult for other sectors of the economy, like agriculture and industry, to grow. The government has long talked about diversifying the economy, but progress has been slow. Despite its oil wealth, Iraq faces serious economic and social problems. Corruption is a major issue, diverting public funds that are desperately needed for services and reconstruction. Unemployment is high, especially among the country's large youth population. Many young Iraqis, frustrated by the lack of opportunities and poor governance, have taken to the streets in recent years to demand change. The protests of October 2019 were a powerful expression of this frustration. Rebuilding the country's infrastructure, much of which was damaged by decades of war and neglect, remains a monumental task. The road to economic stability is as challenging as the road to political stability. The soul of Iraq is found in its vibrant culture, a culture that has endured through centuries of turmoil. Iraqi architecture tells a story of its own, from the spiraling Malwiya minaret in Samarra, a unique symbol of the Abbasid era, to the traditional houses of Baghdad with their beautiful wooden balconies, known as shanashil. Iraqi literature has a long and celebrated history. In the 20th century, poets like Badr Shakir al-Sayyab and Muhammad Mahdi al-Jawahiri revolutionized Arabic poetry. Their words captured the hopes, dreams, and sorrows of their people, and their influence is felt across the Arab world. The flavors of Iraq are rich and diverse. Iraqi cuisine is known for its delicious dishes. Perhaps the most famous is mazgou, a grilled carp that is considered the national dish. The fish is split open, marinated, and slow-cooked over an open fire. Other popular dishes include kuzi, slow-cooked lamb served with rice and nuts, and dolma, vegetables like grape leaves, onions, and zucchini stuffed with a mixture of rice and meat. And of course, no meal is complete without a small glass of strong sweet tea. Food is central to Iraqi hospitality, a way of bringing family and friends together. Music is the heartbeat of Iraqi culture. The traditional Iraqi maqam is a complex and highly respected musical form with a rich system of melodies and improvisations. It is often sung with traditional instruments like the oud, a pear-shaped lute, and the santur, a hammered dulcimer. In more modern times, singers like Kazem al-Saher, known as the Caesar of Arabic song, have gained immense popularity throughout the Middle East and beyond. His romantic ballads and powerful voice have made him one of the most successful Arab artists of all time. Iraq's cities are the centers of its life and history. Baghdad, the capital, is a sprawling metropolis, a city of poets and politicians, of ancient markets and modern buildings. Basra, in the south, is the country's main port, its gateway to the sea. Mosul, in the north, is a city of immense historical importance, though it has suffered terrible destruction in recent years. And Erbil, the capital of the Kurdistan region, is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, its ancient citadel standing proudly over a modern, growing city. Today, on July 12, 2025, Iraq stands at a crossroads. It is a nation with a heritage of unimaginable depth, but it also faces immense challenges, from political instability and violence to environmental threats like water scarcity. Yet, through it all, the spirit of the Iraqi people, a spirit of resilience and creativity, endures. The story of this land, the land between two rivers, is far from over.
Ready for a history adventure? Join our community. Subscribe to World History, smash that like, share with friends, and drop your thoughts below. Let's make history together. See you in the comments.